how does APS have jurisdiction here, or what is the nature of the policing agreement that you have with them?
Well, I gotta go back a little ways. I'll go back to 1975, okay. Back then, I was the chief, and I was on council at the time, and we were having a lot of issues in the community that required police presence. And of course, being a small reserve at the time, we couldn't warrant, so we had to fight and justify getting a policeman. And that's before it became APS, okay? So I'm giving you a little bit of history here. Mm-hmm. So we applied for a policeman, and we were able to get one. And actually, Vince Pavis was our first police officer, but he worked for the band. It was a policing agreement between Canada and ourselves. They would flow funding to us. Now, I'm not sure if the funding was partly Ontario's or not at the time, but it didn't matter. What we thought was a good idea at that time was to get policing within our community. And because what was happening is that the council was the actual policeman, and we'd have to get up 2 or 3 in the morning and run around the reserves. And back in the day, I didn't have a car, so I had to run down the roads. You know what I mean? To go in and deal with domestics and stuff like that. So that's why we went after policing, and of course we put together a whole package to justify that, and we did at that time. So we've been in policing since 76, I think I would say around there roughly. And we had one policeman. And I want to say that at the time, it was good, it worked. And band members were respectful. They abided by, some of the things that were told. But I told them in a sense that, this is policing. I want to do preventative policing. I don't want to put everybody in jail. That's not the point of it. So back in the day, the council agreed totally that we should move forward. So it wasn't until, I think around 90, when APS came into the picture. And at that time, I was working for a tribal council, and they approached me to bring that package to my community and talk about Anishinaabe Police Service and this new service that Shawanaga may be wanting to become a part of. Because what was going to happen is we would increase policing presence within our community. In other words, we might get 1 or 2 officers or whatever, and better equipment, other facilities, those types of things. Stuff that would be required to do a real policing job. So that's why Shawanaga became part of the Anishinaabe Police Service. And of course, it expanded itself over the years, and I find that through that expansion, of course, that's my own personal opinion of it. That is, I don't think really that policing mechanism has done any help here, justice. If anything, it's created more problems. Because what we're finding now is, we got more police officers, but they're not here. Where are they? Now, if something happens, I'll give you an example. Today, there must have been 4 or 5 of them out there. But it's because of the situation. But to me, back in the day, Shawanaga was the first band on the 69 to get policing. That's how aggressive we were back in the day, and we still are today, to making corrections to a lot of things that are happening to our people. And policing is only one of them. But we need to back up a little bit here, because we need to make corrections to the policing agreement in some way, shape, or form, because what's happening is that we're finding that our laws, our bylaws, aren't being enforced. And the reason for it is probably likely, number one, concern about jurisdiction. The other one is they don't have a way of dealing with it through the court system. So the Crown has to, agree with proceeding, I guess, with charges or whatever. And if they don't see it, it never happens. So, and the other thing we were told is they can't enforce bylaws because there's no way to deal with them. So what that tells me is that all of the bylaws that were created by this government, I'm talking about my government, not my particular government, but our government within the community, those bylaws, you might as well say they're not worth what they're written on, the paper they're written on. And that's not this community's fault. It's the system that is there that has to be modified in some way to allow charges to be laid in for them to go through the court system. That court system, because we don't have a judicial system within our community. But hopefully as we go forward, that we'll be able to expand on it. Shawanaga probably will look at in the future, and we've considered it in our discussions, Adam, of utilizing our elders circle to deal with some of the things that we've done, because it's kind of redundant to send it over there, and because it won't get dealt with. So maybe that's a mechanism that we could utilize here instead of having our people go to that system over there. Mm-hmm. So that's how we got to policing here. And now we don't have an office here now, because we, at the time they were situated here, I don't know, since we got policing, I guess 76, somewhere around there, they've been located here. It was actually the main office, because after a while, Wasauksing or Perry Island became a part of that policing service, and also Pamajewon. Henry Inlet didn't become a part, but they bowed out, and they have OPPs police their community, so they're not part of it. But there's other communities across Ontario, Christian Island, where's the other ones? Saugeen used to be a part, but they're not a part of it anymore either. And then we have, Bosley, I mentioned Bosley, and we have other bands, Curve Lake, I think Georgina, those bands over there. So they're part of this, but if you go north, there's some other bands now. So I think there's about 19 bands, I think. Mm-hmm. I roughly think that's how many there is that are part of the Anishinaabe Police Service. So that's how that came about. And I totally agreed with it at the time, because it had what I thought would be the benefits for this community to have better policing, but it didn't roll out that way. And it's all because there was no judicial system in play to make it work. And that's still a problem today.
In doing some research on this, I saw that there was an Ontario First Nations policing agreement that I think, like you said, dates from the mid-70s. Yep. And then from what I could see, well, first of all, I couldn't see a copy of it anywhere online. It was not on the internet. And secondly, it seemed that it had expired in 1996. So that's a long time to not have anything updated.
Well, we used to have some tough times with negotiations, because it became a tripartite agreement, because they eventually understood that First Nations should be a signatory to that, because they're policing their communities. So then Ontario became a partner because of the contribution towards policing, and also the feds, because of the fact this is federal land. So that's how you get the combination of that, and of course Ontario being part of the treaty, administrators, if you will.
So in terms of the raid that happened with the APS making that raid, do you have any idea as to why that happened or how that decision was made by them? You'd said that it hadn't come from you or from Chief or Council.
Well, most certainly it didn't come from us. I mean, what we expect is if you're out there breaking the law and you have knowledge of that, shouldn't you be charged? It's just like a highway stop. I mean, if you're crossing the center line or speeding or something like that, you're breaking the law. This is no different. You're residing, you're doing something wrong. You know that sales are going on in there, right? Mm-hmm. And is there a shingle hanging there saying it's approved by the Shawanaga First Nation Council? No, there wasn't. I'm sure, because we didn't issue one. As a matter of fact, we did make them aware, Adam, that that we would not be issuing a band council resolution supporting that, because we wanted to get our laws in place. We wanted to put our laws in place so that our people could abide by the laws that are being developed, and that's in place at this point in time. So no, I didn't tell them to go and charge them. I'm sure that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out. That's why I gave you those examples. There's no difference.
So what about then with the Blue Sky Woman trading post next door that's selling tobacco? Now that's also technically illegal according to federal and provincial law, but I found it interesting the APS didn't take any of those products or didn't raid those, but aren't they also technically breaking a law?
Technically, yes. And I touched on that a little bit here, and what happened there right across this country, even in the province of Ontario, it became open season. Many communities allowed these people to come into our community. They weren't even native, half these people. They were organized crime that was involved with the tobacco industry. There was a lot of manipulation going on where stocks were going into the US and then coming back across the border, and they were being delivered to First Nations. And sooner or later, of course, the law is going to come up and deal with it, because they're starting to lose revenues for the province. And tobacco, liquor, all of those things are part of their coppers. Like many other things, but I'm just using that as an example.
So how do you respond to, like, if you're on the one hand saying that people need to follow the laws, and if not, the police will intervene? How do you address issues where there's Aboriginal rights involved, where it's hunting, fishing? The same arguments have been made with tobacco or cannabis.
No, I think hunting and fishing is not in that same area. Hunting and fishing is totally different. It's a treaty right. Totally different.
Right, but there's materials like in the 1850 Indian Protection Act or the 1854 Roman Proclamation. They talk about agricultural products being protected from seizure.
Yeah, well, I haven't studied it, haven't had the opportunity to study it, so I'm not going to comment on that. Okay. Until my legal people have had a chance to look at it themselves. So, and they might advise me not to say anything anyway at this point, so I won't address that. Not that I'm afraid of, I'm just saying that it's in my best interest and my community's best interest not to address.
So are there any other businesses in your community that are not band owned, or is this the only privately owned business?
No, that's a private one. Across the road over there, privately owned. I used to own a construction business myself. I had a little corner store, I ran that. I actually built a gas bar out there. My son and I built that and ran it until we sold it to the community. And it's doing fantastic. And it's actually doing so well that we're building a truck stop up the highway, which is going to move up there after we're done.
If band members want to have a business, do they have to get approval from the band council in order to have a business?
I would have to say yes. And the reason for that is because we have a land code, which is, we became part of the, what do they call it, the Canadian Land Management. Yeah. And we're part of that. We became that part of that in 2013, I think. Yeah. And since then, we've jumped through all of the hoops, and we have a land law. So we have a land law governing all of the lands here. I do not have to go to Ottawa, which I had to do before, to do anything. And that's where the Indian Act was stopping us and telling us we had to plead. We had to get out on our hands and knees to do anything in this community. So with this change, it's allowed us now to become a two-party community. So in other words, we can invite people to come and become a partner with us. And it also opens some doors financially with financial institutions because they understand now that revenue generation is becoming a reality here. It hasn't been for quite some time, but it is now. We're opening doors, opportunities are coming left, front, and center. And band members, if they want to get into business, yes, most certainly we have an economic development officer. You come here, you speak with that individual, and create the paper trail. Eventually you'll get to this table. Eventually, once the business plan is put together, it's brought to this table, and the support will be given here for that opportunity to move into reality. But of course, there are a lot of things that are hindering opportunities for our people, or my people. And that is, sometimes they don't have the 10% or the 15% to fire it up. Those are some of the issues that we have. But are we against, or am I against anybody starting a business? No, I'm not. But there still has to be some guidelines and some rules that you have to develop under. We have environmental impacts that we do now, and we have the capability of doing that right here. So that's not an issue. I don't think this is an issue where it stops anybody from applying for a license or a business opportunity.
There was a little protest and rally today about the raid, and then some of the members of the community came into your office here with Chief Del Riley. Could you tell us about how that went and what you had to say to people?
Well, I think I listened to Mr. Del Riley. I've known him for many years. I know who he is. He was a former national chief. I watched him put together Section 35 and 25 of the Constitution, so I'm quite aware of what he's implying. He touched a little bit on it. Basically, we didn't get into a full discussion because I thought that's what we were going to do, but we didn't get there. But I think in the end, discussions, he gave an overview, I guess, of what he was there for, and that his intentions weren't political, is what, he just wants to help people. That's fine. I mean, people do go out and ask for people to come and share with them. I don't have any problems. But I think when you come onto a First Nation, the first thing you should do, though, and especially in this case, I wish Dell would came to me and asked me if he could come onto my committee and speak about an issue, which was the illegal operation of that cannabis store. If he had phoned me and told me about it, I would have set a meeting up between the council and himself, so we could talk about what he has, what kind of message he has or is bringing to my community. I think it went in the back way instead of coming in the front door, which today is probably the best way to come in, because I don't like people undermining the leadership of this community.
There was, I heard from people that had gone to the meeting that you had said that there was going to be a new cannabis law that you were in the process of drafting. Can you give an update about that?
Yes, it's been in the works for quite some time. We've been working on it with our legal people and drafting it, and we're trying to get it to a point where we can present it to the community. But the council has the authority to put that law together and put it on the table, and then bring it to the membership to allow the membership to vote on it. That will happen. I said that to them in the meeting. That is the way we do things. The council doesn't have the authority to arbitrarily go ahead and make laws and that's it. The people themselves are the ones that pass those laws. I don't do that. I don't have the power to do that. My council doesn't have the power to do that, but they do have the power once the people sanction it by way of vote, yay or nay. We count those ballots and we see how that is. And if it says yes, it's law.
So it'll
Very simple.
So it'll go to a referendum then?
Oh yeah, well certainly.
When do you think that will happen?
Well, as soon as possible. Like I said, we need to first put it out to the community and let them have a poke at it, if you will, and look at and maybe question some of the things that are in it. Then we bring it back and have a look at those things and see if we can address those. And if we can address them, then they will be addressed and written into the law. It's like any other town, city, government. It's no different here. We'll make the decision on what laws apply here, not those guys out there. So when our law comes into effect, Ontario and the federal law will not apply here. Our law will supersede.
How do you address the concern or the statement from the feds and the province that it's only the Cannabis Act that applies? They've taken the position that because band councils are created by Parliament and the Cannabis Act is created by Parliament, that band councils don't actually have the jurisdiction to overrule that unless their rule, like they can only basically harmonize cannabis laws. They can only say, okay, you have to follow the federal laws, the provincial laws, and we've made some municipal laws.
Well, I think it's basically probably the same as the Indian Act. I think when we apply bylaws and so forth, in the Indian Act, I think it says it can be consistent. It has to be consistent, it can't be inconsistent. So it has to move along those lines, I guess. And the thing about it is interpretation of Indian Act. And I'll give you one example of that. Many years ago, I was at a meeting and they put together 7 lawyers and they gave them one section of the Indian Act and said, give me your thoughts on that section. They came back with 7 different views. So that's what happens out there, and that's what happens, when people don't start to work together, and that, we start to accept some stuff that is being put up there. And of course, we recognize that probably our law may be challenged. And it doesn't come into full effect, even though it's been sanctioned and accepted by our community. It has to make it real, it has to be challenged, right? Any law is like that out there. It's open to be challenged. And that's probably going to be the same thing here. But my point is this, it's going to be our law.
Now, how will that law get enforced if APS and the OPP don't enforce bylaws or things that you pass here?
But you missed my whole point of talking about the issues that are confronting us and the issues that have to be addressed. The Crown attorneys have to start to deal with some of these issues on First Nations in their court system. We've been trying to deal with that now, and the last, I think 2 years now, I've been talking with Chiefs of Ontario, the Independent First Nations, which we are a member of. We're not a member of any PTO. We're an Independent First Nation. So those 13 First Nations sit together and make decisions and, support one another. We don't have a PTO to take stuff and run with it. We get involved ourselves. So if we see there is some issues with something that might affect us, then we bring it to that forum and we start to talk about, how can we address this? So it's not just a simple acceptance. It's gone on too long like that, where Ontario, the feds, have made laws, policies, everything has been, it's their way or the highway. That has to change. That has to change. And the reason I say it has to change is because you have to start to recognize that there were a lot of things that happened back in the day, and I'll begin 1850 with the Robinson-Huron Treaty. Start with 1763, the Royal Proclamation. All of those documents are in our interest. And somebody within those governments, when those documents hit their desk, didn't do anything with them. They just took paper like this, kept piling paper on top of it, never thinking that those documents have a lot of implications. And that's why we are caught up in what's happening today. And I said this back in the day to Premier Wynne. I says, you know what, Premier? I says, the things that are really going to help us here is this. If you try and change the thinking of bureaucrats, because bureaucrats are the ones that write all of these policies and develop them and so forth and send them up and say, here, this is what we believe should be. Those people don't even have any idea of who we are as a people. They have no idea where we live. They have no idea what we need. So a lot of those things have to change.
There was, I'm wondering if you can speak about the decision of getting a provincially licensed cannabis store. And
what?
You got, the band here has a provincial license for a store. Can you talk about your decision to do that and when it's going to be open and just give me a bit of background about that store?
Okay, I'll tell you, the first part, and then I'll let Adam fill in the other parts, because there's a lot of technical points that have to come with that, and procedures and how we have to move forward. But basically, yes, we thought, well, it's an opportunity was put out by the province, and most certainly we don't always agree with the province, but we saw that as a revenue generator. If we get a license, yeah. But our intent all along was to create a law for ourselves in regards to cannabis. There was no doubt about that. So, and we've always been thinking that way. Shawanaga has always been thinking way ahead. And to me, that's a great thing. That's a great thing. And we saw that, or the leadership at the time said, well, let's go ahead and apply it and see. We probably won't get one anyway. You know what I mean? Because they're only handing out 8 of them, I think it was. So what is our chances? There's 133 First Nations across, Ontario. What is our chance to get one? Be damned. Lo and behold, we're the first ones to get approved. And mind you, we've had a little issues about moving forward. Okay, we haven't got the license yet, but we're trying to jump through the hoops that Ontario has created to get to that license. And we're doing some of those things now. We have a building that have set up over there. And I'll let Adam talk about that a little bit, because it should have been open a long time ago, but we've been running into difficulties, and he has more knowledge about the reasons why we've been running into that. And I'll let him share that, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. So I guess with the hurdles that we're dealing with right now is the unit that we bought. It's a rental unit, but there were some issues when they were putting together the containers, and there was some leaking. So now we have some water damage within the building. So right now they're going through that, trying to repair the water damage and to seal the leaks. One of the requirements from the AGCO with their license is for the inspector and to come down and do a full inspection of the unit. Because there's checklists that they have to go through to make sure that we're within the alignment of what they're proposing for our license with them. And it's just not right now not in the best shape to have an inspector go through because of the renovations that they have to go back through. Once we have that, then it's full steam ahead with their Ontario license is pretty much where we are.
Do you have a day that you're projecting as a grand opening day?
Well, we were being told that mid-April is when the contractors will have the renovations that are inside the building to be done. I would hope within a few weeks after that, because really the only holdup right now is to have the building inside of it repaired, really, from the water damage. Once that's done, then it should be full steam ahead and hopefully open the doors is the goal. So we anticipated to have the doors open a lot sooner, but we didn't anticipate the water to leak through the unit. I guess that serves us right for buying a rental unit, I don't know, but that's kind of the holdup right now.
So how do you deal with will that store be run according to the ban? Like when you come up with a cannabis law, will that store run on your cannabis law, or will it run on the province's law, or how do you deal with these different jurisdictions?
Well, the jurisdiction, I'm not going to get into that too much. I think I'll leave that with the chief. But right now, the cannabis license that we have will be operating under the AGCO license. Through that, if the chief and council and community feel that we tried that and it's not for us, then that's the direction we'll take. Because there has been discussions, I know, at the table, playing the pros and cons of both sides. So right now, my direction is to go with the AGCO license, which we have, and to go that route. And there was various reasons why to go that route with the regulated supplies, and to make sure that the product that we're getting is regulated and we know exactly where it's coming from. Some of the concern was organized crime with the cannabis, so that's one of the, I guess you could say, reasons why we went down that road. But again, if the chief and council and the community feel the best route is not to go under the AGC, then that's the direction we'll take. But,
Okay, thanks very much. I guess maybe just one final question would just be on the issue of cannabis as a medicine, because there have been a lot of I think there's fairly demonstrated scientific proof that cannabis is useful for a number of medical ailments. And I know the store, the dispensary there has been providing cannabis to people who need it for medicinal purposes. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on the provincial system is all about recreational. There's no room for any medicinal claim, and you're not allowed to. And do you know if your new laws that you're developing will address the medicinal side of things, or if they'll just be or they'll just be recreational, or?
I think we did talk about that, and if it's not in there, then it's probably something we should address. But like I say, I'm sure we dealt with that. Mm-hmm. And one of the things too, you know, that I'm not really sure, but I mean, I recall all of the old people here in this community. I mean, at the time we had medicine people. People that did specifically gather medicines and treated people. I don't ever recall marijuana or those types of things being involved, or cannabis. They might have had some, I guess you'd call it hallucinogenic plants. I mean, if you ever watched that movie Bear, where the cub there starts eating mushrooms that were laced, well, I guess they have it within there, some kind of a hallucinogenic
the bears,
yeah.
The bears know what's good.
Yeah, and Bear was staggering all over the place. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think we have to be careful, okay? We have to be mindful of what you're treating people, okay? And this is what I'm afraid of here. If we don't have any controls on it and we just let people arbitrarily go ahead and do things, I don't want our people to end up with a lawsuit against them because they created somebody getting hurt, okay? Because I'm not sure, but you know, that's my fear, and I have to think that way. I have to be mindful of that. And that's why I'm saying that we have to be careful of that. So controls is one of the things that I really want to lift up. And it has to be front and center.
You had the APS in on the meeting, and they stayed for a while afterwards. Is there anything you can say about your communication with them today? Or any message that they had for you?
No, the only thing that I wanted to do, I have no secrets from anybody. What I wanted him here for, I wanted to thank him for coming over here, because I had no idea this group is coming here. I don't know, you know, I know who some of them are, but they're bringing in Mohawks, you know, I don't know. Outsiders, okay? I have to be concerned about who's on my First Nation. And that's why I'm you know, asked APS to be here. Just more or less safety. And of course, sometimes, you know, what happens in public meetings is it can turn and go south or sideways very quickly. And I'm glad that the people that came here were respectful, because that's the only way I will deal with them. Is they're respectful to me, they will get the same thing. And I think I've always been that way as a leader in this community. But there are other people that say otherwise. And I hope you keep an open mind here, because I'm sharing some pretty good stuff with you and your general public out there.
Well, I very much appreciate it. Appreciate the interview.
That's out there. It's generating revenue for this community.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of things that we need to do and have to do. My community is no different from the communities that are located close to cities. You know, some of them are worse off than I am, and it's because we've been pulling together and scratching and pulling and trying to get forward with a lot of development, and we can't do that without financial resources. But now this community has come to a point, and I know there are people out there saying that we're financially strapped. Well, that's crap. I want to tell you right now, that is bullshit. Because we have financial statements for the last, since I've been chief, and I want to tell you, read them. And somebody that doesn't know how to read financial statements gives an opinion. That's his opinion. Because the first 25 or 30 pages of that audit are the ones that you should concentrate on, not the other 50 or 60 that are on the back. Because that only reinforces what the front audit is all about.
So
if you don't understand that, you're feeding wrong information.
So have you been generating increased funding since you've been in as chief? Like,
Damn right.
Can you talk
about? We are
about
financially stable.
What does that mean?
We can go out and borrow money to finance any projects that we feel that should move forward. And one of them is the service center. That's one of them. The cannabis shop. We bought other things in the community.
The homes.
Yeah, the homes. We've built some homes. I don't know if you went around the reserve. Anybody ever take you around the reserve? I know there was some comments that were put out there by somebody saying that we built houses we didn't finish. Well, they're finished. They're all finished. As a matter of fact, we've got 3 more going up this spring. This is all happening. Our water line, we're working very diligently on that. I know there's somebody that says that we have 2-inch line running through here. That's bullshit. There's a 6-inch water line. And you can't hook. You'll go along there and you'll see fire hydrants. You can't put a fire hydrant on 2-inch lines. And I was here when that line was put in. I was part of the council many years ago. It needs to be upgraded now. There's no question about that. And we're working very diligently. I'm looking at the future. I see the repairs that are coming, and hopefully they happen this year. I hope that the upgrade that we're thinking, I forget what the number was on that end. 5, 6?
Yeah.
Somewhere around it. But anyway, we have a shortage of water. We have a truck that goes and picks water up and delivers it over to the community. We keep that doing. We have a truck driver doing that, right? And we've been doing this for over 10 years. And you know, I've been hammering away since I became chief. And even when I was sitting on council, I was still hammering away about the water. And we're still going at it today. But hopefully, I was thinking when I became chief that what we could do was drill a couple of new wells west of the main community and bring those online to the system, because our problem is that we don't have enough water, okay? My little kiddies can't, we can't put a little plastic swim pool, out in the front and fill it up with water. We can't do that. My band members can't wash their cars. That's how limited our water is. So I wanted to change that. By bringing on these 2 wells would increase the amount of water that is available to the community. So in other words, the bottom line is, I don't have any fire protection for my people. If there was ever a fire, we wouldn't be able to save that home. That's how dire straits we are in terms of the water project. It's not because we haven't been trying, it's because the federal government fails to see what we're going through. But of course they have so many of them across the country. And the way I feel about it is that if we were to create some of revenue generation opportunities within my community to generate revenue, we could probably use some of that to move things forward, instead of sitting here twiddling my thumbs, waiting for Ottawa to come back here and fix the water issue. But I don't want to do that either because it's their fiduciary responsibility to take care of my people. That's not going to go away. But here's the thing, that's the interim measurement that I'm putting into now. The long term is to go to Georgian Bay with a brand new state-of-the-art water treatment plant at the shore and pump the water up. And that's about 6 miles. But if they can do it up at, what they call that, Shoal Lake, pump it to Winnipeg, why the hell can't they pump it here? So those are the types of things that I'm dealing with. But I've already talked about housing, roads. Our roads need to be upgraded. We have opportunities that are in front of us. We need to negotiate an agreement with the Minister of Transportation. I won't give you the details, but I want to tell you that they want to come through our community. And you'll notice out there, there's only a 2-lane highway going through our community. And down southwest, there's 4. And then up through there, it's 2-lane here, 4-lane there, until you get to Sudbury. So they need to sit down and talk to us about the use of our land. We have also other issues that we need. We have land claims. A lot of things have been implemented. We've implemented, I think in 14, our land claim for leagues versus miles, where our community here was laid out in miles as opposed to leagues, which is 3.5 times more. So we're negotiating now. That itself happened during the time when I was the chief. I am the chief, and I have been for those 8 years. I'm going into election again, and I want to say to you that I intend on running again because I honestly believe that I have the abilities to bring these to light and bring these things to reality, because there's no sense in reteaching somebody or relearning somebody about what is required here. I think it's all there in black and white, but we need somebody to lead it, and I can do that. And we have that truck stop. That's $5 million, right? And could be a little bit more, but that's the thing. Back in the day, we had one little we had a payout. Adam, back in one agreement we dealt with 7182 out here. It was a full $4 million payout made. That was dispersed in 100% to the membership. Now, I didn't agree with that at the time, but of course I'm only one vote. And what I saw there was what we could have done was an opportunity, all right? What we could have done was use half of that money to move forward with the truck stop back, I would say 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And that truck stop would be running right now. But decision by the people was to get 100% payout. So that's what happened. So as we go forward, I would hope, as we negotiate some of these claims, and in particular the lease versus miles, I would hope that the community will look at the infrastructure of our community, and also look at not only receiving a payout, which I have no problem with, but I think we have to look at what we require in this community. Our infrastructure is getting old. We need to replace it. We need a brand new community center. We need recreational facilities out there. We need our roads upgraded, our water system. Those are the types of things that we need. So and the one thing that I do want to say, when these settlements are made and this money comes to this community, I hope that they think about our future generation fund too, so that the kids that aren't even here yet, they would have something when they get here, and that they can count on as they go into the future. But those are the types of things, that's how I think here. I'm not thinking about getting paid, you know, whatever, if you take 700 people and divide how many millions we settle on into that. You know what I mean? I'm looking at what we can do with it. How can we best utilize that money so that the benefits will come to the people?
All right. Well, let's leave it there. Thank you very much, Chief,
Yeah.
for your time. Very
Yeah.
much appreciate it.
So I hope